Okay. Well, welcome. Madam Bokova, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Madam Karman, very excited to see you again. Mr. Manish Prasad from the Indian Embassy, thank you for gracing us today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and last of all, a lot of young faces that we see today, and I'm very happy to see them here for this lecture. As Akriti had mentioned, this is the second Ahinsa Lecture. The idea about this lecture is to promote on this particular day, 2nd of October, the Day of Non-Violence, and also the fact that it is the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi. And also very dear to me is the birthday of my youngest daughter as well. So, I want to tell you a little bit about MGIEP because many of you are still, it's relatively new. We are 5 years old actually. It's a Category 1 institute of UNESCO, generally supported by the Government of India. It's a global institute looking at global issues on peace and sustainable development and focusing primarily on education. Now, the way I think the best way to introduce our our institute would be to tell you a little bit about a manifesto that we developed building on the principles of UNESCO, but something that just drives us at the institute that we think is very dear to the way we do business at the institute. So the first is, we believe to build peaceful and sustainable societies, but it should be fun. I think that's one of the things that education has really lost in the sense that the children really need to have fun. The learners should do it in a fun way. And curiosity driven rather than rote learning. So you don't tell them what sustainable development is or what peace is. They have to experience it, go through an inquiry process. And for the human flourishing, it's not about just building human capital, but it's also for human flourishing. It's for the individual himself. We also believe we are a center of research excellence, and we do, it's research that drives us, developing what we call disruptive, innovative tools and methodologies to transform education. So innovation is key to the way that we do business. We are persistent in innovating new pedagogies, so we are really focused on pedagogies, the way we learn, the way we transmit knowledge and build intelligence. And that is dynamic, which means it's not static. It's continuously evolving as our knowledge changes. And continually assess with a specific focus on, and another key word is digital pedagogies. We really focus on digital pedagogies, bringing in the latest from the neurosciences to guide the work that we do. We recognize that curriculum and pedagogy need to be dynamic and rooted in robust scientific evidence. So we very much believe to be evidence-driven. We believe in providing a platform for deep collaboration across multiple disciplines. So we like to bring in the different disciplines that we think are relevant for education. And believe it or not, you have people like psychologists, neuroscientists, we even have physicists on our advisory board in terms of providing that kind of guidance. So the last one is we're willing to take risk, because without risk we do not learn. And so the Institute does tinker with innovative pedagogies. One of the things that has raised eyebrows is the way we use gaming for education, gaming for developing pedagogies in peace and sustainable development. So with that, we believe that by empowering individuals to fire what we call Gandhi neurons. So if you can get to the next slide. That's the 4 pillars that we focus on. We focus on competencies, not on just transmitting more information. And the 4 pillars are mindfulness, critical inquiry, empathy, and compassion. And together, what we think from the evidence that we have is what we will call firing Gandhi neurons. So we're not interested in telling you what Gandhian thoughts are. We are more interested in providing you the practice to be the way Gandhi lived his life. And that's our mission. So with that, I want to stop here. And I hope you enjoy. I'm looking forward to this talk. And I think what we hear would resonate very much with what the Institute does. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ananta. I'd now like to call upon stage Mr. Manish Prasad, Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of India, to say a few words. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bonsoir, namaskar. We are very honored to, on behalf of Embassy of India and Permanent Delegation of India, we are very honored to partner with the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Education, New Delhi, to have organized this evening. Again, this is the second of the Ahinsa Lecture series. We are, of course, very honored to have the Director General of UNESCO, Her Excellency Madam Irina Bokova, with us. Thank you, Madam, for being with us today. And of course, we are greatly honored by the presence of Ms Tawakkol KARMAN, the Nobel Laureate, and we are all very eager to listen to her thoughts about peace building and sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, today on 2nd October, as you know, it's the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, we in India affectionately and with reverence call him Bapu. He was the father of our nation who led a non-violent movement for the independence of India. And non-violence for him was a creed. It was not just a political tool of expediency, it was a total way of life. Mahatma Gandhi brought to his movement all the methods which he could use coming from the traditions of India and including learning from all the religions of the world, from all over the world, that what are the best practices, what are the best tools to build a sustainable and peaceful movement so that we have lasting peace. The goal was independence of India, but he did not just stop at that. And had he been living together today, he would just be working for peace and peace and peace. He was, thinking ahead of his times. He brought women on the streets to join the independence movement. He worked for the depressed classes to eradicate untouchability, which were the social evils in our society, and many other things. He even worked for environment, for all the things which stand today for sustainability. Peace can only be sustainable when you have got the consensus of all the parties who are in conflict, and that conflict is only resolved when it comes from the heart. So we have to learn that what are the practical ways of building peace, as Mahatma Gandhi showed during his lifetime and what he achieved. It is a workable proposition, and that is the whole idea behind the Ahinsa series. Ahinsa, which means non-violence, that we bring the practitioners of non-violence to this podium of UNESCO, which is the radiant center of the world where intellectuals come, meet, discuss, and take these ideas to their own countries and their own civilizations. We want this message to travel to all parts of the world, all corners of the world, that how the living practitioners of peace building today are doing their work in their lives, in their countries, traveling across the world and showing the practical way that how a peaceful society can be built. We all look forward to hearing the Nobel Laureate today, and I hope that we will get good insights into this very complex question of our day. Thank you once again for being here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prabhat. I'd now like to invite on stage Madame Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO, to say a few words. Madame Bokova, of course, needs no introduction. However, she has been the Director General of UNESCO since 2009 and was re-elected for her second term in 2013. For all our young delegates, she is the first woman to lead the organization. Madame Bokova, may I request you to please come on stage.
Dr. Manish Prasad, Deputy Chief of Mission, Embassy of India, my dear Professor Ananta Dorayappa, Director of the Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development, my dear friend, my dear sister, Tawakkol KARMAN, dear young friends, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so honored to welcome you here to UNESCO for this second Ahinsa Lecture organized by our Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development and the Permanent Delegation of India. I'm very proud because I was when the Institute was established, and I know how much we worked with India to implement a decision of the Executive Board, and now this Institute is not just well established, but I think the Institute indeed is on the cutting edge of research, of scientific research, and also so relevant to what are the current challenges in the world. And it is not by chance that this lecture takes place today, the International Day of Nonviolence, which, as has been already mentioned, it's the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi on the 2nd of October, which is the pioneer and the philosopher of nonviolence. Earlier this month, I paid an official visit to India. I was in India again, not the first time, I have to notice it. And I had the pleasure to deliver the certificate of inscription on the World Heritage List of the historic city of Ahmedabad, the city from where Mahatma Gandhi launched India's freedom struggle. And this was also, I think, very much mentioned during the debate about the inscription of the historic city of Ahmedabad. But I also had the great privilege to visit the Sabarmati Ashram Preservation and Memorial Trust. It is the site of Gandhi's first ashram founded in 1915. And I was deeply moved to see one of the largest collections of his original manuscripts. I believe Gandhi's vision of peace and development nowadays has never been so relevant. This is what I thought when I visited the ashram, and this is what I think today on the 2nd of October. His wisdom and vision resonate deeply with UNESCO's mandate and constitution, which states, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men, and today of course we say, and women, that the defenses of peace must be constructed. I believe that in these turbulent times when we see conflicts which are tearing societies apart and the rise of exclusive politics and violent extremism, we need more than ever to use the force of soft power through education, culture, and sciences, communication, and information. We cannot defeat violence with more violence. We must end this vicious circle and renew our commitment to the rule of law, empathy, mutual understanding, solidarity, and peace. For the Mahatma already alerted us, there is no road to peace. Peace is the road. So, ladies and gentlemen, as our first full-fledged institute in the Asia-Pacific, the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Education in Peace and Sustainable Development embodies precisely this, UNESCO's and Gandhi's shared values with excellence. I see in these initiatives led by the Institute to explore the power of education to prevent violent extremism. In September 2016, UNESCO and the Institute organized an international conference on the prevention of violent extremism through education, leading to the publication of a policy guide. During my recent visit, I participated in a fascinating and really fascinating workshop with educators from 10 countries working on a curriculum that integrates critical inquiry, mindfulness, empathy, and compassion. The Institute is nurturing a new generation of global citizens through the Yes Peace Network and the Changemakers program. So, once again, I would like to thank the Indian government for its outstanding support. And though he's not here, but still, I would like to make a special mention, he will be next week here, of Dr. Karan Singh, the chair of the Institute's board and India's representative also to our executive board. His wisdom has guided the Institute from the very onset. And of course, I would like to mention here in his presence the outstanding work of our director, Dr. Ananta Durayappa, because I think this also gathering here, the lectures, and all the very cutting edge, as I said, research and thinking around makes us even more relevant to what is the need nowadays in the world, in order to give not just quality education, but global citizenship education, and also to prevent violent extremism. This lecture series was inaugurated last year, and I'm ending here with the presentation of Dr. Sila Elthworthy, who spoke on the impact of violence on the global economy and the need of a business model for peace. Another, I would say, very innovative idea. But this year, it's a very special occasion. It is a very special lecture because we are honored to have with us here Tawakkol KARMAN, Nobel Peace Prize winner for 2011. And I would say a courageous defender of freedom of expression and women's rights. And as long as I have met Tawakkol on so many occasions, most recently it was in the 16th summit, also World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates in Colombia, where we were discussing the peace process in Colombia. And she has visited here, UNESCO. It's not the first time that Tawakkol, you are coming here to us to inspire us with your vision, with your own activism. And I would like to pay a very special tribute to you and to your courage. So I believe, dear Tawakkol, that your energy and your commitment is a symbol of Mahatma Gandhi's wisdom, when he says, "Non-violence is the greatest force at our disposal. It is mightier than the mightiest weapon of destruction devised by human ingenuity." So, the floor is yours, dear Tawakkol, and I wish you all a very fruitful conference.
Thank you very much, Madam Bokova. Before we commence, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our speaker, who really needs no introduction. She is a mother of three. She's a journalist, politician, human rights activist, and president of Women's Journalists Without Chains organization. Bold and outspoken, and she's been imprisoned on many occasions for pro-democracy and pro-human rights movements. She's famously known as the Mother of the Revolution, Iron Woman, and the Lady of the Arab Spring. Tawakkol was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011 in recognition of her work in non-violent struggle for expression rights and the safety of women. With the receiving of the Nobel Peace Prize, she became the first Arab woman, the second Muslim woman, and the youngest Nobel Peace Prize laureate at the time in 2011. Today, Tawakkol will be talking about working towards peace building and sustainable development. It's my absolute honor to introduce to you Ms. Tawakkol KARMAN.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. My sister Irina, I am so proud to sit next to you, and you are a great woman, and I am so proud that we share the same values and we share the same struggle, and we will continue our work together until we reach to sustainable development agenda. Dear brother, the head or the deputy representative of the Indian embassy, thank you for coming, and your family. And thank you for UNICEF in India, and thank you for everybody here in this hall. My English is terrible, but excuse me for that, okay? First of all, again, that I would like to say that how happy I am to be here at UNESCO, to be in a place that cares about culture, education, and science all over the world. This will surely give a sense of pride and safety, as education and science provide the world with peace and development, with the ability to coexist, tolerate, and believe in diversity. Dear friends, the world has been experiencing increasing waves of armed conflict, terrorism, racism, and tyranny, which should raise questions rather than simply raise mere objections or cause a sense of frustration. Why does it happen? Why does this happen? How did wars, terrorism, and racism come back to the fore? Who really is responsible for this? Who is behind the relentless attempts to thwart international development and peace and security efforts across the world? The road to peace is not always possible, but this shouldn't frustrate us or prevent us from moving forward to achieve peace. We have to believe in ourselves and our ability to achieve it, no matter how difficult it may cost. One of the problems facing many societies that have sunk into chaos, war, and poverty is that they have not passed the development test. To overcome this, considerable efforts and hard work awaits us. I have always believed, in fact, that there is no peace without development, and there is no development without peace. There is certainly an opportunity to build sustainable peace wherever sustainable development is promoted. And any efforts made to achieve either of them reflect positively on the other. The failure to build sustainable development leads to a state failing to comply with its duties of ensuring social well-being and improving people's economic conditions, which result to a failed state where hunger and poverty prevails. And thus social peace becomes more vulnerable to collapse and slide into various conflict and crisis. Dear friends, dear sisters and brothers, no one in today's world, neither individuals or groups, could feel safe while seeing others lacking in peace. Peace is not a personal matter, but it has to do with all human beings. Peace is increasingly needed in local, regional, and global levels. I believe that many like me dream of uniting the world's will to achieve peace and fight poverty and hunger through effective participation in sustainable development. Indeed, sustainable multidimensional development is no longer a delayable option. History proves that peace and development are influenced by each other, but this influence is no longer governed by a specific geographic area. Look, as you see, terrorism attacks everywhere around the world. Terrorism is a result of corruption, tyranny, and failed development. The problems of climate change will have major impact on the world's safety, and no one will be safe from its consequences. These dangers will affect everyone on this planet. So we have to think differently and broadly. The post-2015 Development Agenda and the preceding Millennium Declaration have been a great achievement of humanity, which would stabilize the whole globe and bring to mankind sustainable peace and a life free of poverty and hunger. Then all human societies everywhere would become a better place. Therefore, the responsibility, the onus is on us to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, in an honest and genuine manner. The SDGs are characterized by ambition and equity, as they have been founded on the principles of justice, fairness, freedom, and human dignity, as well as on the principle that the earth is our mother. It is also everyone's duty and right to protect it for all of us and for future generations. This means it is necessary to turn the page on the unfair globalization, where some have had special privileges while others have gotten nothing. I know that state heads and the heads of governments have taken a great step when signing the post-2015 development goals. But this remains inadequate. This remains not enough. For me, implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals should urgently come into effect so that societies across the globe realize their positive impacts. In order for this to happen, it requires detailed plans to carry out the development agenda in a comprehensive and balanced manner. It also needs adequate UN supervision and evaluation over the implementation of this plan, as well as the UN ability to overcome difficulties constantly. Enough funds are also needed for the implementation of the world's development plans. All these measures are necessary so that the post-2015 development agenda will not be just ink on paper, like what happened to a lot of signed international agreements and plans, which have turned out to be mere archival materials. While talking about the global development goals and about factors as well as the reasons of their success, it's also essential to stress the importance of the trio of strong institutions, peace, and justice, to ensure the success of plans, rationalizing funding, and avoiding any non-implementation. Strong institutions are needed on two levels, at the UN level and at the local and national level. It is necessary to activate the existing United Nations bodies related to the implementation of SDGs, giving them greater power to be able to play their role in planning, supervising, evaluating, and making reforms. This enables to competent United Nations agencies to honor commitments and make others meet their own commitment. Otherwise, it would not be possible to achieve the Agenda 2030. At the local level, to achieve the multidimensional and sustainable development, we should have strong institutions. Having strong institutions is also a very important prerequisite, as there is no development without strong institutions. There is no development without strong institutions which adhere the rule of law, accountability, and transparency, fight corruption, and prevent the abuse of power and waste of resource. if we effectively combat corruption and guarantee rights and freedoms, we will have opened the door to a sustainable development and fulfilled the most important condition for building a sustainable peace process. It's a failed management that lacks transparency and accountability. Any effort made or prescriptions given to ensure that good governance would never lead to peace or development unless corruption is combated and transparency and accountability are effectively adopted. Dear sisters and brothers, the global development agenda is based on the principles of justice. The global development agenda is based on the principle of justice that should dominate the fair distribution of the benefits of globalization among all members of our small global village on which we share life. Locally, opportunities should be distributed among citizens without discrimination or monopoly under circumstances, as justice is manifested when all enjoy their basic rights and freedoms equally and indiscriminately. Likewise, justice must be achieved to ensure the protection of citizens from aggression and violation of their rights and freedom, and to ensure the offenders and perpetrators don't escape just and fair punishment according to law. The achievement of justice in many communities entails stopping dictators' war on their own people. And therefore, the most important form of justice is to protect people from massacres of killings committed by despots against those demanding freedom. The road to justice begins with ensuring that perpetrators of massacres against humanity are internationally prosecuted, held accountable, and allowed not to go unpunished. This is an important way to apply justice in many communities and countries suffering from such violence. Any society lacking any rights and freedom is living in fake and deceptive stability. Any society lacking in rights and freedom is living in fake peace and deceptive stability. Any efforts made to resolve disputes and achieve peace without taking into consideration rights and freedoms leads, at best, to temporary truce, which would be followed by a more intense conflict. There is a close link between the absence of peace with the absence of justice and development. Thus, the struggle for democratic society, governed by respect for rights and freedoms, is a fight for justice, is a fight for development. Dear friends, finally, talking about peace and development would remain worthless until women and youth become part of these tracks. Development plans where women and young people are not taken into account are empty and useless. When women are not excluded, it greatly helps to bring peace and make progress in the areas of sustainable development. On the other hand, When the energies of young people are not marginalized and wasted, it helps countries and societies overcome many serious problems such as unemployment, organized crime, terrorism, and poverty. The youth is a positive force that must be maintained and not allowed to turn into negative force or a burden on society. Any nation that wants to rise, any nation that wants to rise must take care of women and youth, enabling them to play an essential role in driving the path to modernization and development. This is the responsibility of all of us, states, government, societies, international organizations, and activists, if we are really concerned with development, peace, and human rights. Remember, development plans where women and young people are not taken into account are empty and useless. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tawakkol. Thank you for that inspiring speech. The one takeaway message that I got from is you put it very well right at the beginning. Why? Why do people take on these activities? And it's key to addressing the conflicts and finding peace, rather than sort of taking an understanding of what that other party is using as their basis for their actions. The second is in terms of the justice, accountability, and effective institution. I'm not going to try to summarize. It was just too much of material to take. So what I'm going to do, the third one, which I really liked, is that the key drivers of change, the youth and the women. So guys like us, we just have to pack our bags and go and sit in the back of the room, or go and sit in the corner for a while and behave and let the youth and the women sort of take the peace process. And I think we might actually find some pathways there. Neurobiologically, she's got a point. All right. I'm going to open up the floor for questions, and we'll most probably have about, if you want to keep to time, maybe 3 or 4 questions. So let me all right, we've got the young, really ready, three hands. I'm going to go with, all right, I'll reverse the gender role, and I'll give you the first question.
Okay. First of all, thank you for your great speech. In your speech, you spoke about strong institution and rule of law, and I think it's really important to develop the human rights. But I also think it's really secularism. It's also important to develop human rights because it permits to treat all of people equally. So how could you develop? Do you have a solution to develop secularism in those countries where religion and religious beliefs are so important?
Look, one of the important point for development is it's in one of the important goal in the development agenda is in Article 16, which talk about strong institutions and peace. And inside this goal, it talks about the freedom of expression, the freedom of thoughts, the freedom of belief. So it's very important for me to reach to the state, to the democratic state that give the chance to everybody. It's the right for everybody to think, to to believe on whatever he wants to. It's the right of every person to be religious people or not to be religious people, to believe on X religion or to don't believe. It's the rights of people. But also, I believe that this is the rights of people. But the state should be the guarantee for this right. Not should call for. Not should be the religious. Not should be protect of the X religion or Z religion. So this is what I believe. What I believe for. So and this is what. Especially the freedom of expression, the freedom of thoughts, the freedom of belief is one of the icons that lead to the peace. And as I said before, there is no development without peace, and there is no peace without justice. And if we just avoid the Article 16, by the way, I was one of the members who wrote that, the 2015 agenda, and I was very stressing and very insisting on the Article 16, which is peace, which is strong institution, which is fighting corruption, which is the freedom of expression and thought and belief. Democratic society is very, very important. When we talk about religion, we should talk about democratic society. Democratic state is very, very important, that provide and that protects people, giving the people the right to do what they want.
Thank you very much. Yes.
First, thank you very much.
Could you just introduce yourself and say where you're from,
yeah.
so we get an idea of that?
Okay, Bayan Fadel, Syrian nationality. First, I just need to thank you for being a fighter for peace. And once I heard you saying that people and education are the main elements to implement peace in reality. So my question is, what are the main obstacles of implementing education, like actually implementing education in the society?
There is many reasons. But let me speak about the most important reason for me. But there is many reasons if you talk about lack of education. One of the important elements is corruption. Is the absence of the plans, details of our great goal development, agenda. I said in my speech that it's very important when we put plans, great agreements, great treatments. We should start on talking and start on acting, on implementing. And one of the most important obstacle against implementing is the current situation of the UN. UN as organization, UN as agencies, they produce a very important, a very successful agreements, a very successful thoughts, a very successful plans. But when we go to the implementation, UN has a lot of obstacles as a UN. So I called and I still call that we should empower UN. UN should be strong enough to follow, to observe, to finance these plans. And one of the plans is the education. This is if we talk about the international, reason. And this in the local reason is the lacking of strong institutions, the corruption, the tyrannies, that they just steal the wealth of the people and didn't focus on investment, on the people, on the education, on the health, on the justice, on the providing water to the people, on the equality, on the equity. It's one of the the reason that make the education, the lack of education is corruption and also the tyranny regimes. There is another things which is the economic field, with a lot of things. But for me as Tawakkol, if you ask me, Tawakkol, what is the solution? I will tell you two things. First, empowering the UN and its agencies, finance the development. It's very important the development has a good financing, and from other hand is to fight corruption and to fight the dictatorism. So if we make that, we will guarantee a real, development. We will create a good governance. So good governance will lead to all this development, to a good education, to a good health, to a good, using, the resource of the country, etc., etc.
I'm happy that there's a Nobel laureate who still has belief and faith in the UN. So that's a marching order for many of us. I'm going to go to that young lady there, and then I will come to you.
Thank you for this lecture. My question is that in a globalized world and improved telecommunication area, do you think that access to internet should be part of basic human rights? And which opportunities do you see in digital area for building a sustainable peace?
A lot of things. The digital area, the internet, the revolution of technology make this world closer and closer. Make us to live in a very small village, and make us to deal with each other as a family, and make us to have a new identity, which is the global citizenship. And this global citizenship will, if we struggle for a real global citizenship and for a fair globalization, it will lead to real development. But what is now the world suffer from? We suffer from unfair globalization that gave us all this revolution of technology, that gave us the right to the strong, to the big countries on commercial field, and to have a big wealth, to have a big prosperity, while other people are suffering from poverty and from the negative of the globalization. So with this internet, digital, we have a lot of things to have. It will be useful for us, especially with communicating, especially with gathering with each other, especially with transferring the expertise from each other. I'm talking about nations, about people, especially with now Facebook and Twitter and YouTube help the people and change their regimes, the dictatorship regimes. So it helps a lot, but also from other side we need it to be part of a real fair globalization. A real fair, not just taking the information and not helping the people on reaching to the democratic society, to real development.
Thank you very much.
First, hello everybody. Assalamu alaikum, which means peace in Arabic. So I would like to, is it possible to speak in Arabic?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
I will translate with my strong English.
Because I miss Arabic first. أولا أشكرك سيدة توكل وتمنيت كثيرا أن ألتقي بك. أنا نادية جزائرية وأنا كذلك عضو من جمعية أنوار بن خلدون وابن خلدون لا يخفيك أنه من أصول يمنية. سؤالي هو ماذا يحدث في اليمن؟ لماذا كيف نحل مثلا مشكلة اليمن؟ أين يكمن المشكل. وكذلك ليس المشكل فقط في اليمن، وإنما كثير من البلدان العربية تعاني من نفس المشاكل. مثلا إذا تحدثنا عن المغرب العربي، عن الجزائر مثلا، فهو بلد غني، ولكن المشكلة أن الرشوة مثلا وسرقة أموال الشعب، ولكن المشكل عندما يسرق الحاكم المال أين يضعه؟ إذا المشكلة هي مشكلة يعني لا يوجد لنقل مساعدة الخارج لنا، لأننا لو كان هناك من يوقف هذا السارق لعادت الأموال إلى ولا تربى الناس. يعني المشكلة أخطر من الرشوة داخليا ومن عدم، ولكن المشكل أننا الكل يتربص بنا داخليا وخارجيا. شكرا جزيلا.
Okay. She asked me about the situation in Yemen, and she asked me a very important question that in Arab Peninsula we suffer from a lot of problems. One of the problems is stealing the wealth of the people and taking this money to the West. So the assets of the corrupted, of the dictatorship is here, and there is no real, as I understand, there is no real will from the West to help, the people, map or the people way to, on fighting corruption. So I will answer on the first phrase of the question, which is what is happening in Yemen. In a very brief, I hope that I will be able to do that. What is happening in Yemen now? Yemen is facing an ugly counter-revolution. This counter-revolution led by the ousted president, Ali Saleh, the dictator who we made revolution against him, peaceful revolution against him in 2011. And through our peaceful revolution, our non-violent act, we could force him to step down. So he started to make revenge against our great revolution by making alliance with the militia of Al-Houthi that is supported and backed from Iran from one side. So they made a coup on 21st of September 2014 against the transitional authority in Yemen, against the republic in general, against all our outcomes, all our gains that we made after the peaceful revolution, after the resignation of Ali Abdullah Saleh, the dictator, especially in the human rights field. So I will not explain a lot about how the peaceful revolution started to build a democratic country through the national dialogue, through the draft constitution that we wrote, a very good draft constitution, and that guarantee all the human rights that we suffered and sacrificed for, and also how our transitional period didn't exclude anyone, any group, even the alliance, even the party of the ousted president Ali Saleh. So, and the militia of Al-Houthi, all of them, we invited them to be part of the national dialogue, and through our great national dialogue, we made a great outcomes, and also after the outcomes, we wrote a draft of constitution. So all these gains, and the republic itself become collapsed when Ali Abdullah Saleh, when the dictator Ali Abdullah Saleh, the dictator Ali Abdullah Saleh led the counter-revolution and the coup with the militia of Al-Houthi backed with Iran, from Iran. They started to collapse everything and start the internal war in 21st of September. They put our president under home arrest. He escaped to Aden, to the second capital. They followed him with the missiles. Then he escaped to the Saudi Arabia, to Riyadh, and asked help from them to face the ousted President Ali Saleh and the militia of Al-Houthi and the Iran project, and ambition, to control the Arab Peninsula through Yemen. Saudi and Emirates led the Arabic coalition, started their attack or their operation on March 2015. And their operations, unfortunately, attacked a lot of citizens, a lot of civilians. They said that they will help our legitimate president to return to Yemen, to spread the rule of law, to face the counter-revolution and the militia. But unfortunately, that wasn't true. They attacked the civilians, killed a lot of civilians, women, men, children, and also they claimed that they will help our president to return to Yemen, to rule Yemen, but the reality, they didn't help him. They occupied Yemen now. So they occupied Yemen now. They occupied the airports, the ports, the island, and they didn't allow our president to return to Yemen to rule Yemen. So Yemen now is facing an ugly counter-revolution from both sides. From Ali Abdullah Saleh, the ousted regime, the dictator, and militia of al-Houthi, and Iran from one side, and from other side is the Arabic coalition led by Emirates, and I'm talking about Emirates because Emirates is the number one who is lead the Arabic coalition in Yemen, and who built the prisons in my country, and who is the most, who control the Arab coalition and who make most of the chaos. Of course, Saudi is silent against all the Emirates agenda in Yemen. So we face both of them, and both of them are agreed on one thing, which is Yemen shouldn't be a democratic country. Both of them want our peaceful revolution to stop, our revolution to stop, our dream to die, our struggle to finish. So this is what is happening in Yemen, but also from other side, there is Yemeni people. There is people in Yemen still continuing their struggle, and they aren't with this and with that, and they know very well what is the battle in our country. It's the battle between freedom and dictatorship. It's between our project to have a democratic society and their, both sides, projects to remain Yemen and democrat and to destroy Yemen as a republic. But we're here, and we will win, as I always said, as you people live in Paris, in France, you know what does revolution mean. And you know very well what does mean that every great revolution followed by counter-revolution, and at the end, who win is the people who insist on their freedom, dignity, democracy, and rule of law. And that is what will happen. We will be the victorious, Yemeni people will be the victorious, and we will reach to that moment of a democratic country, inshallah.
So we've kind of passed through, so I want to thank you, Tawakkol, for an inspiring speech. Had I think, an inspiring Q&A as well. And it's a forum where we provide the dialogue. And I think one of the things that I'm taking away is the importance of dialogue. It's important to facilitate a dialogue. And it resonates very much with the teachings of the Mahatma when he was alive, is to have that dialogue. And I think that's extremely important. I'd like to thank you for staying with us till it's 10 past 7. I think there's some refreshments outside. I hope you'll enjoy it, and thank you very much. And we hope to have the third Ahinsa Lecture. What year are we now in? I've forgotten the year 2018. That's right. We forget time at MGIEP because we're having such a lot of fun. So do join us. Drop by when you're in Delhi, and do join up. And especially with a lot of the young faces that I see, we have a lot of activities all around the world for you to kind of take the action that Madam Tawakkol has been talking about. Getting down, rolling your sleeves, for people who have the sleeve, and actually doing it, and not just reading about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.